AMOLED panels have recently grown into a significant trend within the industry, and while we've seen Samsung make some great progress in terms of color accuracy and brightness potency, the unit on the Mate S misses both these targets. In short, the 5.5-incher of the Huawei Mate S, while pleasant to look at, is actually fairly disappointing for a high-end device. And no, it's not because Huawei has decided to skip over Quad HD and instead stick to a standard, and perfectly sufficient, resolution of 1080 x 1920, 401 ppi. More worrying are the non-trivial disparities between target and actual color reproduction. For example, at over 7700K, the screen on the Mate S is overly cold and therefore bluish looking, though you can tweak color temperature and correct for this. What you can't do is fix the messed up color reproduction of the unit, so prepare for overly saturated colors that distort reality and look artificial. Given how Android and the entirety of the internet is coded with a different color gamut, sRGB, in mind, this is certainly a drawback. Finally, on brightness. We measured a peak of just under 350 nits, which is on the lower end overall. Still, it being winter around here, we ran into absolutely no trouble even on the odd day when the sun was up and shining, but you may feel otherwise once summer gets here. Unfortunately for Huawei, the minimum brightness of the panel, 6 nits, is just too high for comfortable usage at night, and we can't say we were impressed by the performance of the ambient light sensor. It consistently let us down and forced us to manually adjust how much light goes through the pixel matrix, which is extremely annoying. When we mentioned that the Mate S felt like a rushed release, part of the reason was the silicon Huawei settled for. As some of you might know, the company is among still few phone makers to have its own microprocessor division, HiSilicon. And that division's latest creation is the Kirin 950 built on a 16nm node. In the case of the Mate S, however, the brains of the operation is the homegrown Kirin 935, 28nm, which is essentially a higher-band Kirin 930 that runs at 2.2 GHz instead of 2 GHz. It's an octa-core chip, working the ARM big little magic, meaning that it has two clusters of cores with different potency and cycles between them depending on the task. The GPU built-in is the quad-core ARM Mali T628, coupled with 3 GB of LPDDR3 RAM. On paper, it may seem like the Mate S is a competitive device in terms of performance, but that's not really the case, and synthetic benchmarks exemplify this. Most generally, the Kirin 935 is insufficiently powerful when compared to the likes of the Samsung Exynos 7420 and the Qualcomm Snapdragon 810, with the GPU